This some mundane scenery is Al Ula Shire. Cover almost 9,000 box miles, 22,500 sq km, in polar West Saudi Arabia. It is on the identical amount as New Jersey. Kennedy is portion of an world crew transport out which they say is the realm's greatest always archaeological examination, that began in March. In comparison with its provincial neighbors Egypt and Jordan, Saudi Arabia is not so known for old story. But how might be on to changing? Crew members say they include already identified thousands of archaeological sites, found testimony offering how human beings include lived in the region for lot much longer rather than was previous mind, and found strange structures. The feature and importance of that are enveloped in secret. Amr al-Madani, CEO of the King Committee for Al Ula, RCU, that was set recent July to driving the growth, hopes the area will greet its at first visitors in 4 persons year and how by 2035, one day the draft is full, up to 1.5 million tourists will trip every year. Al Ula will be a residing legacy, environment and culture museum, a purpose how both of surprises and delicacy, says al-Madani. The childbirth of Saudi travel? The capacity jewelry in Saudi Arabia's legacy travel corona is Ma'in Salah. A gallery of 111 impressive tombs cut in rock outcrops, and one of 4 persons UNESCO Planet Legacy sites in the nation. Ma'in Salah was constructed by the Nabateans, the identical civilization how created the lot superior known community at Petra in Jordan. In some key sites in Al Ula, Ma'in Salah is now close to the social. It will de-open while the RCU has solved how top to demonstrate its legacy to big numbers of visitors, time enabling how it is thoroughly canned. Recent September, the committee employed Rebecca Foote, a London-based US archaeologist, to set an archaeology and culture legacy division. Her at first draft is the examination. Its aim is to identification and paper all remnant of history humane operation, and build and stock taking how will assist to define that sites credit future research, preservation and creature advanced for travel. He's an emergency prospect, says Foote. Thou seldom get the opportunity to conduct out a top practice, country of the art integration examination on such a big scope and in a scenery how substantially undisturbed. Downward in the Vale time Kennedy leads the examination of Al Ula's inland areas. L's team during Foote's crew is concentrated on the draft's Mandrel region. Cover 1,100 box miles, 2,890 sq km, it encompasses a vale, as well named Al Ula, bordered in by steep-sided mountains how growth 1,000 feet on both of sides. One day wealthy in water supply, the Al Ula Vale has channeled human beings, and trading, on its broad, plain story for thousands of years. Previous settlements prospered thanks to fleeting traders conveying incense, myrrh and gemstone. Foote says how the at first main town there, Dedan, now named Al-Qurayba, was set for the at first millennium BC. This path of the southward to Interfluve, Egypt and for ran up the west party of the Arab Peninsular, says Foote. So trodden paths related oasis to oasis, love a point-to-point figure. This oasis stipulated water supply for human beings and animals, says Foote, addition how camels, that can pull through in just random accessing to water supply, switched length distance trade. The trading path ultimately reduced following seacraft how could reliably swim the traitorous Red Sea were advanced. The Vale remained comparatively peaceful for several 100 years and later boomed once again, while Islamic was set in the Medium East. Mecca and Medina became the heartlands of the religious and a purpose for pilgrims, says Foote. Al Ula lay on the path southward of Syria. In latter year, archaeologists include carried out study about the Mandrel region at Ma'in Salah, Al-Qurayba and Al Ula Old City, a phantom city maze of rock and wood brick houses that, on to Foote, was populated of at low the 12th age order up before the 1980s. But the new examination extends to lot areas how include never been investigated, and involves the use of cut-edge technique how is revolutionizing the box of archaeology. Flyer Machines Jamie Quartermain, who is guideline the examination in the Mandrel area, is a young pioneer in top-tech archaeology. This scope of the job we're making wouldn't include been probable in the history, with usual land examination methods, he says. The trial begins in a flying in a lighting plane furnished in a crawler and chamber. We get really comprehensive top-resolution photographic of the airborne, says Quartermain. This chamber captures objects 4 persons inches, 10 cms, broad of altitudes up to 5,000 feet, 1,500 meters. The scanners use LiDAR, lighting imagery, detect and range, technique to fire laser treatment purlin to the land and compute the accurate height of every examination spot. The photography and LiDAR information is later combination to make a 3D EASE card. He's love Google Earth but in a lot more standard of part, says Quartermain. One day he has identified promise sites. Quartermain zooms in drones adjusted in strong cameras. Eventually, the crew goes in by Earth. We use 4x4s to trip sites identified of the air to check, explain, thumbnail and photo them, he says. Land study, says Quartermain, is the just way to see fate art and lyrics found on vertically fate many faces how are not apparent of over. His crew do not include the period or asset to convert the texts, that are spelled in multiple languages consisting Aramaic language, Arabic language, Nabatean, Hellenic and Roman. Other will do how after. The fate artwork, yet, several of that before dates the spelled speech, is already pliable data. Down there are pictures of giraffes, ostriches, one jumbo, lot of camels and hunt scenes, says Quartermain. The animals ensure clues to the age of the artworks. This giraffes and ostriches day of the time up 6000 BC, while such kind lived there, he says. Environment changing accounting records show how following the period, the scenery transitioned of savanna to abandon. As the environmental dry up, these animals were managed southward to their present band in Africa. Abandon showed the standard of conservation in Alula is overwhelming, says Quartermain. In the abandon, the remnant include not been exposed to water supply soil erosion and in so lot stone lie about, artificial structures refuge been disassembled for de-use, as frequently happens in another place. The largest usually found structures in Alula are cairns, driven piles of stone how mark graves, occasionally enclosed by low offering circular or box dry stone walls, that are older rather than nobody anticipated. We don't include checked dates still, but it looks as if several may date to at low 4000 BC, says Foote. Addition, how several may though extend behind to the Neolith time, 10,000 to 4500 BC. He's really breathtaking since it shows how the story of invasion of the region goes behind lot future rather than was named. Kennedy has been alike surprised by his show in the inland areas. In 10 days of flyer, we found about 4,000 sites, he says. Several graves in the region are in comparison with any how Kennedy had seen up, in triangle structures installed to spot to cairns. Kennedy believes they are distinctive to Alula. We don't aware the importance of the shapes, he says. Largest mysterious of all, although, are the gates, rock structures how comprise of brief, broad walls related by length concurrent walls, that see love farmer gates while examined of over. Several in Alula action 650 feet, 200 meters, the long of 4 persons Olympic bathing pools. Though greater ones are found in another place in the realm. Gates are distinctive to Saudi Arabia. I've never seen whatever remotely love them everywhere, says Kennedy. Down there are no accession points, and we don't aware which they were utilized to, he says. Addition, how analyze of antenna photos and land visits might assist to show their goal. Will tourists go to Saudi? While tourists come in Saudi Arabia, Alula's standout attractions are potential to be Ma'in Salah, Alula Old City and Al Qurayba. Al-Madani anticipates how 50% of visitors will go of Saudi Arabia and the Bay Area, the some 50% will be of across the sea. I believe they've got a issue marketing Saudi Arabia in contest in, Jordan, that is a lot more than weakened Medium East community, says Neil Faulkner, an archaeologist and historiographer who leads tours to Jordan and Egypt. Jenna Morello, of Dallas, Texas, toured Saudi Arabia over the year, incoming the nation on a industry visa. She admits to several before-trip nerves, particularly about clothes rules. While I saw West female, they fair had the abayas, length cloaks, on and no chief shawl, she says, addition how she, too much, did not don a scarf for largest of the travel. Tiring and abaya done her sense inconvenient, yet, since of the natural limitation and losing of sameness. Down there fair weren't a ton of female walk about, she says. But human beings were suddenly amiable and hot. In one garden female requested to get pictures in us, making selfies and the world mark. Al-Madani believes how travelers' intrinsic wish to expertise new places will prevail such a concerns. One day there, human beings will delight our welcome and genuineness, be receiving of the regional mores and customs officer and honor the norms and values of the communities they are charming in. Faulkner says a other obstacle is the perceptual of the Medium East as hazardous, volatile and potential enemy to West visitors. It has had an enormous effect on culture travel through the area for the recent 15-year, he says, addition how the visitor production has rejected though in comparatively secure destinations. He believes how Saudi Arabia many faces an heavy problem, indicating to their participation in the war in Yemen and length-running provincial dispute in Iran. Safety is, of year, an essential item in nobody's judgment to journey, says Al-Madani, yet down there include been really few, if all, incidents touching travelers or tourists in Saudi in latter year, and we will go on to job difficult to provide the remnant as. Eventually, he believes how Al-Ula's archaeological jewel treasure is powerful quite to paint crowds to a nation how has length seized the planet's imaginative.